Jackie, you ready? Ms. Burgess? Okay. I'd like to call to order the special City Council meeting for today, April 15, 2019, 6 p.m. Madam, roll call.
Mayor Ronnie L. Felder.
Present.
Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson.
Present.
Chair Pro Tem Julia Botel.
Here.
Councilperson Trodrick McCoy.
Yes, here.
Councilperson Shirley Lanier.
Here.
Councilperson Douglas Lawson.
Here.
City Manager Karen Hoskins.
Here.
Jacqueline Burgess, Deputy City Clerk, is present. City Attorney Don Wynn. Here. You have a form.
Okay, we'll have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Lanier.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we don't have any additions, deletions, or substitutions. Disclosures by council.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I have known Miss Billy Brooks for a little bit of time and had conversations with her, and Deirdre Allen Jacobs has assisted me in her role as administrative assistant in my work as city council person.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I have known all of the candidates for interim city manager, and personally, I should say, and also I had a prior 2017 limited tax engagement with Ms. Jacobs.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I know the applicant Billy Brooks very well, and I also know the applicant Deirdre Allen well. I do not know the applicant Priscilla Taylor.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I know all the applicants, no business dealings with either.
Okay. Anyone else? Now, also, I do too. I will make my disclosures, but I do want to ask Ms. Nguyen. We have two items on the agenda for tonight, and the second one is regarding the contract negotiations for Mr. Evans. So I know last week or whenever it was that we discussed that, I did, and I think everybody said that they had had some form of a conversation with him during the last 7 to 18 months or so. And then in regards to the applicants, I do know of all of the applicants by way through the city or the county. Ms. Deirdre Jacobs has assisted me maybe the past month since I haven't had an assistant to process community benefits. But outside of that, I know them through the city, all three of them, as well as the county for Ms. Taylor.
Madam Chair, should we reiterate our prior conversations with Mr. Evans, or was that taken up at the last meeting? Okay. Yes, then in fact I have had conversations over the course of the last year with Mr. Evans.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I too had prior conversations with Mr. Evans prior to this meeting.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I too have had conversations with Jonathan Evans prior to this meeting.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I had one conversation with Mr. Evans within the last 2 weeks.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Can we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Trodrick McCoy.
Yes.
Councilperson Shirley Lanier.
Yes.
Councilperson Douglas Lawson.
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Julia Botel.
Yes.
Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
We do not have a consent agenda for tonight, so we will skip that portion. Unfinished business, petitions and communications for filing. We do not have anything. Awards and presentations, none. Public hearings, none. And comments from the public. should be restricted to issues, matters, or topics pertinent to the City of Riviera Beach. Please be reminded that the City Council has adopted rules of decorum governing public conduct during official meetings, which has been posted at the entrance of the council chambers. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, the council chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, and/or the building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Public comments shall begin at 7:30 p.m. unless there is no further business of the City Council, which in that event, it shall begin sooner. And I did mention before that should we finish up with public comments prior to 7:30, we will continue to accept public comments cards up until 7:30, and that time we will close. In addition, if an item is being considered at 7:30, then the comments from the public shall begin immediately after the item has been concluded. Any person who would like to speak during public comments, please fill out a public comment card located on the table directly outside of the council chambers and give it to the staff before the public comment section is announced. We don't have any items tabled. Regular discussion and deliberation, item number 1.
Appointment of an interim city manager, and we do have public comment cards and no further acceptance of public comment cards for this item at this time.
Okay, so Ms. Hoskins or Ms. Eureka Irvin, will you all be starting us off, or do you want us to just go ahead and start with having a discussion?
Madam Chair, as you know, interviews were held on Saturday, and we interviewed 3 people. At this time, if you want to start your deliberations regarding who you would like to serve as interim city manager, you may do so at that time. I did pass out the notebooks from Saturday if you want to refer back to the questions that were asked, but at this time it's open to you all.
Okay. Anyone would like to have a discussion on, would like to start first, perhaps, as to who it is that you are thinking about, and just for the public, I believe we should just announce who those 3 people were. I know we did on Saturday, but just as a reminder, we had Ms. Priscilla Taylor, Ms. Deidre Jacobs, and Ms. Billy Brooks were the interviewees on this Saturday that just passed. And as they mentioned before, we will have to make a motion once we get down to who it is that we would like to have, or if we need to take a vote for each of the candidates, we can do it that way, or if we would like to have a discussion, and if we can just narrow it down, then we can put in a motion of the final person, however you like to go with it.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I would like to thank all 3 of those candidates for applying. They each did a wonderful interview. They took a lot of their time, I'm sure, to make their application known, to write it up, in some cases to redo a resume that was that hadn't been done in a little bit of time. So thank you so much to every candidate. Each of the 3 candidates did a wonderful job. I think many of us were surprised at the extent of Deirdre Allen's background in public service, her work in West Palm Beach for a number of 22 years, I think it was, and also her educational background. It was a pleasant surprise, I think, to those of us who have only known her in the capacity that she has served since I've been here anyway. And so that would be my choice. My choice would be Deirdre Allen for interim city manager.
Okay. Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I was impressed with all 3 candidates, to tell you the truth. They both had all 3 of them had very extensive background in government and in organization. I was really impressed with Ms. Allen, as Ms. Botel talked about, in terms of her background, in terms of her responses to certain questions in regards to not being a micromanager, having the understanding that the people who are the rank and file of the city of Riviera Beach are the most valuable employees. And I can really appreciate the fact that she has a very good grasp in terms of how to prioritize funding and how to prioritize budgets when there's a shortfall and when there are issues that as we all know, may run into in terms of how to trim the fat, so to speak, in terms of our budget. But I don't think that a lot of that was really on the table because this is a 2 to 3 month position, and I like the fact that she talked about, just the fact that she talked about the rank and file, what really impressed me.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, so do we want to go to the public and then come back? All right, public comment card on this item.
Fane Lozman, Erica Davis, Mary Graham.
Fane Lozman. Before I talk about the 3 candidates, I want to explain that the process here is flawed. In other municipalities, when a city manager gets ill or leaves on a short-term or permanent basis, the council, what they do is they look at where is the leadership in the city. And the leadership in the city, the next layer of leadership after the city manager is the assistant city manager. If there's no assistant city manager, then they look to the department heads, to the city attorney, and to the police chief. Because what's happening now, if you pick the lady who is an administrative assistant, you are bypassing the chain of command. You know, when I was in the Marine Corps, the company commander couldn't do the job, they would go to the platoon commanders. They wouldn't go to a private who's a rifleman and make him in charge of the company. So there's a leadership skill. One of the things that there's 2 individuals that stood out in my mind, Randy Sherman and Terrence Bailey, that they are leaders of numerous employees in the city. I think 50 or 100 people each, they lead right now. They're in a leadership position. Now, the other lady may have a good academic background, but as far as leadership in the city, she worked for one person, Ms. Botel. I also think she worked for somebody else along the way, but she didn't have 50 or 100 people like a public works director and the finance director. So the point is, why aren't we doing what everyone else does? You work your way down the leadership chain. You don't bypass the leadership chain. We'll say, well, these people didn't apply. Really, it's kind of tough if they say, well, I want to abandon my troops in the public works department. I want to abandon my troops in the finance department. But certainly what you can do as a body, you can say, you know something, let's look at the outside applicants, but if we're going to choose somebody from inside the city, we are going to ask our department heads who've been here for, some of these department heads have been here for a decade, we're going to ask them, or more, we're going to ask our department heads, do you want to lead the city? We're going to ask them, we're not going to say, oh, put in a resume, or if you weren't around or you weren't paying attention, we're not going to consider you. Say, listen, we understand you don't want to apply because you don't want to alienate the troops under you, but we are going to ask you, and the mayor could really do this himself, we want to ask you, are you interested? Public Works, the different departments, and that's the way it should have been done. Okay? If you go through all the department heads and everybody says no, then you open it up. That's the way it works in North Bay Village. That's the way it works in Chicago. That's the way it works in cities around, except Riviera Beach, where Ms. Botel is going to grab her administrative assistant and continue to try to control the city. Separate than that, if you're going to look at the 3 candidates, I like Priscilla Taylor. Priscilla Taylor was on the Joint Legislative Audit Committee. She was the one that looked at the audit in Riviera Beach, where the other individuals recognized there was a problem in the city and passed that on. She has tremendous contacts in Tallahassee to get grants for the city. She has tremendous contacts with the county to get grants for the city. In a few months, who knows how many millions of dollars Ms. Taylor can bring into this city, and that's what we need. So certainly when you look at who can do the most financially for the city, Ms. Taylor is second to none.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Erica Davis, Mary Graham, John Miller.
Erica Davis, Riviera Beach.
Good evening.
Clearly, we still have personal agendas going on, that they're not thinking about the logical decision that needs to be made. I remember a few months back, I held up a resume that was clearly qualified to do the city attorney's position and job. But that was voted against. Now I'm up here again with a qualified resume of Deirdre Jacobs, who not only does her job, but she does almost everyone's job. She's a multitasker, and she does plenty of duties of everyone. She is a valuable asset to this city, and she will not play the radio up in here. And we need to seal the deal If we want to go on and have a normal city, we don't need any more personal agendas, no trickery, no slickery. We need to move this city forward. The city needs to make money. The city needs to be developed. And we need to seal this deal right today. Not tomorrow, today. You guys use your LOGIC, ALLY, to make your decision. And that's going forward. You're going to have to use that all the time to make business decisions. We're done with the friends and brothers, sisters, and cousins. It's time to get down to business and handle this city like it should be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Bram, John Miller.
Miss Mary Bram,
Good evening.
Riviera Beach. I too took notes. Everybody knows Miss Bram is a note taker. The three candidates, they should be commended. Miss Bram commended Miss Brooks, as well as Miss Taylor and Miss Allen. I sat and I took the critical elements of the notes. We would not be bogged down. We would not be intimidated. Over 5,200 people, the most elected municipality in the county. We did that. That speaks for change. That's volume. We would not fly like the birds. We would fly like the eagle. You scientists know, anybody is thorough with scientists, they know what the eagle does. We adopted that bald eagle as our mascot for Florida. It's time out for intimidation. It's time out for parlaying, friends and buddy system. We are all friends and buddies. And this is what we come as, a united force. Yes, it is no losers here because I consider them all winners. But we will have to press forward with the one that has the most challenges that lie ahead. So if you suggest Ms. Allen, that would be fine. It doesn't matter because she rendered her service to some of the board members. That's what the rest of the employees should do. I speak of that skill set, that multitasker that this city so diligently needs. We have that, not just with Ms. Allen, but we have it with Ms. Brooks and Taylor also. But we can only have one. We can have only one to set this ship and take that anchor out the water and move us forward here for these 60 or 90 or 120 days, whatever that may be. But it's time out for this. We will rise up and fight this battle here. Attorney, don't fight against us. Nobody shall fight against us. This is the right thing to do. I don't care what other cities do. They parlay their cities the way that they want to do. Because, see, sometimes they get out of character, too. So we are not the only one. These standards here is set for good government all over the land. And there shall be good government. And we will fly like that bold eagle. Oh, we have an army of peoples that you all do not know. You will never know who Ms. Bram have in her orbit. For goodness, for this city and for this residence. It is never about Ms. Bram. It's always about we the people, the First Amendment in the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last card is John Miller.
John Miller, 1290 Manor Drive.
Good evening.
I'm looking up there and I'm listening. And everybody has an opinion. Everybody has an opinion about everything. The only person that I do know is Billy Brooks, and I'm going to say what a beautiful lady she is. And I know all the different things she's done in our city. I don't know the other people. But I don't need to know. You guys need to know. Not me. You did the interview. You know them. You know them inside and out by now. And Ms. Botel, I don't think you're telling Mr. Lawson how to vote or the mayor or anybody else. So you have your opinion, but you're one of, I think there's 5 of you up there, isn't there? There's 5. So what I'm saying to you is opinions are one thing, but you're the people sitting up there, you've been elected, you know who's the most qualified, and so pick them out and we'll go with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was our last public comment card.
Okay. All right, back up to the dais. Does anyone else have any comments they would like to share or put forth a name? Yes.
May I make a motion?
Well,
Madam
no,
Chair.
not yet.
So, Ms. Hoskins, can you suggested that the process is flawed, and I think we all are committed to serving, but, can you kind of share with us what that process was? Because, in all honesty, I don't want to be here doing something that's improper, but, I know we kind of set forth what we were going to do, but do you have your notes that you can kind of set forth how this was put out publicly?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
And the process, the same process as for when I was appointed city manager, we followed. An email was sent out to the department heads and any other staff that were interested in applying for the interim city manager's position. Everyone had their opportunity to send in their resumes either directly to Human Resources or via the Applicant Pro, an online system where you apply for the position. And this is the same process that was followed when I was appointed city manager with the firing of former city manager Jonathan Evans, and the interim gave notice that he would be leaving. So we had to do a quick turnaround, and this was the same process that was followed approximately 14 months ago this time. And we went a little bit further where we contacted FCCMA, where candidates also submitted their resumes. So the administrative staff, department heads were able to apply, but I don't think we received any resumes from any of the administrative staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, anyone else would like to make a comment?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to hear from the city attorney attesting to the fact that this is a legitimate process.
Yes, the process is legal.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I just want to just commend the candidates. I believe all three did an excellent job, come with an extensive background in government. And I think this particular situation is pretty unique in that we do have another item on the agenda tonight in regards to a contract negotiation for a permanent city manager. And knowing that we will be going forward very soon to get a permanent city manager, this would be a very temporary situation. And I know that I was here when we said the same thing about Ms. Hoskins, which turned into a whole 18 months or so, or 14 months. But I do believe a lot played into why that happened. And I do not foresee this being the same type of situation. I do know that with this being such a unique situation, it does require someone who's in-house. Now, as many may have known, I was not, I didn't vote one way or the other when we did the interim for Ms. Hoskins and the other candidate. And at that time, I certainly did not feel that we needed to have someone who did not have that experience in terms of being a city manager, because that's what we were looking for at that time. But when I realized we were not getting a whole lot of people knocking on the door, per se, to come and work for our city as a city manager, I learned to deal with the situation that we were in. And so we got past that. In this situation, we don't have someone that has been a city manager before. We did have some applicants, but I think with having people who were outside, who'd been, have no knowledge of the city, that was not going to be a good fit for those, the others. And they didn't even make it in the cut to come as an interview. And I'm sure that's probably why. The three that were selected are local. They are familiar with our city one way or or the other, whether it's policymaking or from the county level, or from working in-house. And so that leads me to say that with Ms. Deidre Jacobs, she has an extensive background in government. She's worked in government for the city of West Palm for over 20 years. I know just from her being here, she did work along with Mr. Evans when he was here. She worked along with Ms. Hoskins when she has been in her office all of this time. And I know that she has assisted me, as I mentioned before, since I have not had an assistant since December, in whether processing a community benefit or just, something simple of that nature. But I know I've learned just from being here and knowing her that since I've been here, is that she was very capable of doing much more than what she's been doing. Whether that's been her choice or, the opportunity wasn't there, whatever the case may be, she was overqualified for the position that she was in, to be very honest with you, and that's my opinion. And I know that she had an extensive background with government in West Palm. So I'm comfortable in knowing that she could be here in a temporary position. She has worked with Mr. Evans before. She has worked with Ms. Hoskins, and she's been there, and she knows the community. She knows a lot of the people, a lot of the workers, for one thing. She has always been a listening ear to a lot of the workers. And so I think that having those characteristics and attributes makes this a little different, and makes it okay for me to feel that she would be the right person for this particular position, because it is a temporary position, but I feel that she has the skill set to take us to the point of being able to identify who our permanent city manager will be. Okay, with that being said, if we don't have anyone else want to make a comment? All right. Do we have a motion, or anyone want to put anything out there?
Anybody else want the honor?
I'd like to make a motion to select Deirdre Allen as the interim city manager for the city of Riviera Beach for a term of
not to
exceed 120 days.
Second.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Can we use the applicant's correct name, please?
Deidre Jacobs.
Deirdre Allen Jacobs, I think is how it's on her. I believe you said Deirdre Allen only.
Did I say Deirdre Allen?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Deirdre Jacobs. Correct?
Okay.
Deirdre Allen Jacobs.
So Deidre Jacobs Allen.
Jacob.
Deidre Jacobs Allen.
What's your name? What's your name, honey?
Oh. It's important for it to be
correct.
Right.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Deirdre Jacobs. That was an electronic error where my daughter's name was in the computer. I thought I had taken it out, and I talked to Eureka about it, but obviously it wasn't done. But my name is Deirdre Jacobs.
Hold on 1 minute. We have a motion. You can stay right there. Just let's finish this motion. Is that good?
Jacobs.
Okay, I'd just like to restate the motion.
Please. Yes, please.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to select Deirdre Jacobs as the interim city manager for a term not to exceed 120 days.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
You want to vote, or you want her to talk first?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, come.
Carry the motion. She said carry the motion.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Councilperson Lanier?
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Pro Tem Brotel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
All right, Ms. Jacobs, if you'd like to come up. And congratulations.
Thank you. I'm sincerely humbled and just like I asked myself, how did this even happen? Because it happened so fast. But I'm so pleased and just grateful for you being able, or you taking an opportunity to listen to me on Saturday and to learn different things about me professionally as to how I might be able to assist the city with moving forward. I was listening to one of the speakers, and not that I place great emphasis on what other people say anyway, because I'm just not that kind of person, but it brings me back to the days when I was at Florida State in one of my classes. My teacher, he would continuously, I always knew when I was in high school at Twin Lakes that I could write well because of my 10th grade teacher. Her name is Helen Scott. And then when I went to FAMU, my literature teacher, he told me that I would be a good attorney. He said you would be a good appellate attorney because of your research and writing skills. You don't necessarily have to speak, but think about going to school and being an attorney so you can help do some appeals. And then when I got to Florida State and I was working on my thesis and my action report, there was one teacher that I had, and he constantly, for some reason, he would badger me. We would present our thesis in stages, and it would always be something wrong with my paper, even though I knew from high school that I could write well, that I had good writing skills. But for some reason, he felt a need to just beat me down emotionally. And some of the kids, because I was young, maybe 21, 22, some of the kids in the graduate program, they even dropped out, but I knew I couldn't because I was there for a reason. And on one occasion, one of the students came up to me, and her name was Stacy Kemp. I had never met her before, but she introduced herself to me, and she said, I want to apologize to you for the way Dr. Chakarian treats you. She said, your paper is better than mine. And I'm like, well, how did you get my paper? She got it out of the garbage can in the computer lab, because as you write drafts, you would take them, throw them in the garbage can, but you would never think somebody was going in the garbage can to get your paper to read it. On the very last day of class, he came up to me and he asked me, we were having a reception, how was I going to get to the reception? I was riding with a friend. I wasn't sure how I was going to get there. She said, she's going to ride with me. He said, no, you're not. You're going to ride with me because I need to talk to you. So he drove this really old red truck. I got in the truck with him. We went to the reception. On the way to the reception, he says to me, I really need to let you know why I beat you up. I beat you up because you were really smart, but I needed to prepare you for the world because your confidence, there will always be people that will come behind you and try to beat you down because of your confidence. But what you need to know is you can't allow those people to change who you are. Stay strong, and when you get in the work world, continue to be who you are. Don't let anybody beat you to the point that you quit. I was sitting in the back listening to the speaker, and that came to my mind, and all it did was make me a bit stronger than I am now. At some point in time, all of you will learn me at an even higher level, for lack of a better word, where you will be able to see that not only the skills that I presented to you on Saturday through our conversations, but my work, the practice that I'll present throughout the time that I'll serve as the interim manager up until Mr. Evans comes, you'll be pleased with. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Now, Ms., and thank you again so much. I know the question came up, Ms. Nguyen. Just let me know if this is appropriate, and I'm sure it should be. Mr. McCoy had a question on Saturday in terms of when will she be able to start, and we didn't get into the conversation, but we thought that being able to start tomorrow to shadow so that she can get with Ms. Hoskins in terms of what priorities and just get caught up on everything and shadow her Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then there's I was going to say no school on Friday, but no, the city is closed on Friday, and I missed school. So we'll get to our second item, and I think that will probably provide a little more clarity for us in terms of how we go past Thursday, and then after that we can have a little more dialogue, unless you all feel now is the time to do it. But we will finish this conversation.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
In regards to when she starts, or?
No, that part we're settled with.
Okay.
But, after going forward on Monday and, like the direction and,
Okay.
what we want her to do. Remember, some people were asking, well, during Saturday, it was, we said we didn't want any major decisions being made per se, but obviously if urgent situations approach, we don't want to overlook it, but we can have a little more conversation about that.
Okay.
All right?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
We did discuss the benefits that Ms. Deidre does have and the salary range. So I think that's part of the discussion that we do need to have moving forward if she's starting tomorrow, because that was something that we discussed prior in reference to her benefits and her salary.
Right. So with I think we kind of mentioned it initially with Lina when we were asking about whether a contract would be done. And I think one of the questions was we weren't sure if, she was thinking if it was someone that was retired, if they already had benefits, they would not get benefits, but since Ms. Jacobs is already here, she will continue her benefits, whatever benefits she has now. Then she would just have the salary. You're aware of the conversation Lina said, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so can you just kind of speak for the record of what it would look like?
We had some questions, and so I wanted to know what process you all wanted to follow. When we negotiated my contract, I worked with the chair at that time, and I wanted to know if you wanted to do the same thing.
Yes, yes.
So
That's typically how we do it.
Right,
with the
so
chair.
we would need to know the salary. I know the term is not to exceed the 120 days.
Right.
We would talk about car allowance, because the city manager's position is basically a 24-hour job. So there are some other things that we need to talk about in the negotiations with Ms. Jacobs.
We mentioned the $150,000 salary.
Okay.
I believe we initially said nothing else, no car allowance. We just mentioned $150,000, and obviously because she's going to be, she's already here, she'll continue her benefits. But we did not, I know if it was someone that was outside, we were not going to do any travel, pay for any travel or moving expenses or anything like that. So that's what we mentioned last week, I think it was, when we were talking. So it was just $150,000 and the benefits.
And then my understanding is also that when the 120 days or the term is over, that she will go back to her current position.
Yes, that would be in there.
So we took the liberty of drafting an agreement that we would negotiate with Ms. Jacobs along with the chair, if that's the pleasure of the council.
Okay, and then whatever we discuss, we'll come back here for you all to weigh in on.
Yes, the contract will come back for ratification.
Okay, and they could make changes at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Ms. Hoskins I'm not very abreast to this longevity thing here. Is there something regarding longevity for that as well?
Yes. That if whatever longevity benefits she currently has, it'll be at the rate established by the current city policy.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Establish that the city policy based on her current position or in her position as city manager? Because what I was sitting here thinking, the other fringe benefits such as sick and vacation, do they occur at
They accrue at
a much larger amount?
So,
at a larger amount?
For instance, in my contract and the prior city manager's contract, there's a set number of days. However, the way I've drafted it now, and we can always change it, her vacation time during this 4-month period would accrue at the same rate it's currently accruing unless you all want to do something different. My contract and Ms. Hoskins' contract calls for 25 vacation days, and I don't remember the number of sick days.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
So here's a real easy recommendation or suggestion that I have, and let me know if it works. So if we're already putting her base salary at 150, assuming that this is a 12-month position, let's put it at the same rate if Ms. Hoskins had 25 days, and we'll just prorate it at however many months she's served. So 25 divided by 12. So it's some parity between her contract and what Ms. Jacobs was going to have, if that's possible. That's the easiest way, I would think.
The only thing I would suggest is that we look at how it's currently accruing for her, because you don't want to, this 25 divided by 12 may be less days than she's already getting. You want to give her the better of both days, of both, whatever the equation is.
Okay. So we'll bring that back, that information back, or you can communicate that to them.
Right.
Okay.
That's it. Thank
That's
you, Madam
good.
Chair.
Anyone else? All right, item number 2.
Moving forward with contract negotiations for Jonathan Evans as city manager. We do have public comment cards, and no further public comment cards for this item will be accepted.
Okay, Ms. Hoskins, you want to just provide like an update, or Ms. Nguyen?
Madam Chair, today I sent the board a copy of the executed amendment to the settlement agreement, and you should have that in your emails. And the purpose of this item is to memorialize what took place on April 10th.
Okay, but that's not
I'm
the
sorry. No, it's
resolution.
It's not the resolution, but you all wanted to have that amendment to the settlement agreement signed before you all talk about contract negotiations.
Right, which is the removal of the Section H, saying that he cannot reapply or come back to work at the city. So
Correct.
that's what this, that was what the amendment was. That was signed by everyone, well, all those who needed to be signed, who needed to sign it. And then today it is to talk about the contract negotiations. And I believe Ms. Votel was the person that initially discussed it. So if you would like to provide some input, and then we can go to the public comment.
Well, I think it was, thank you, Madam Chair. I think it was fairly clear to everyone watching that the consensus of the board, I say board, the consensus of the council was to move forward with those contract negotiations with Mr. Evans. And now that the agreement has been signed by both parties, we're free to do that. So
All
we
right.
should move forward as quickly as we can.
We'll go to public comment, and then we can come back to the council for comments.
Fane Lozman, Erica Davis, Mary Brown.
Fane Lozman.
Good evening.
Amazing that you were going to go to contract negotiation with a guy without opening up the position for city manager. You have an ethical responsibility to say, if we're going to have a new city manager, that anybody can take a shot at it. Has anybody done a background check on Evans to see what he's been up to? I see Ms. Botel laughing. You have no idea what's going on with him. I have a document in my hand that I don't think Evans can ever come back with. And I'm going to take this to the ethics board and the state attorney. Evans signed an agreement with Amman Israel to get $3,000 to redo houses with no open end to it. And this document that is signed on 5/4/2017 wasn't approved by the building department. It wasn't approved by Danny Jones when Amman tried to do that. Have you seen this, Mr. McCoy? You're a very legally astute guy. Have you seen this, Mr. Mayor? Okay. Now, he cut a deal with Amman and never went through the council. It could have been millions of dollars. Okay, that's not going to fly. We're not going to have corruption when I'm living in Riviera Beach. Has anybody bothered to see this document? I got some extra copies if you want to look at it. The other thing is you don't, Ms. Nguyen, before she went on vacation last week, she talked about it's not a done deal that all these parties to the agreement are going to sign off on it. If they challenge the agreement, it may not happen. So the 120-day clock is ticking. Why don't we open it up for anybody who wants to be the city manager? How can you unilaterally decide, because Ms. Botel wants it, that Jonathan Evans is going to be the next city manager? Where's the competitive process? Anything that goes on in this city has to be a competitive bid. This deal that Evans signed off with Amman didn't go through a competitive process, $3,000 for each house. What about other people that wanted to do it? I'm not going to tolerate uncompetitive things going on in this city, and a city controlled by Ms. Botel and now her former assistant. That's not the way things are done. You're being very nice. See, Ms. Botel's got a very smug look on her face. We know what this is all about. She went in and told the building official to rescind the dock permit from DEP. Okay? It's not going to happen. You're not going to rescind an agreement and he's going to keep $190,000. That's not ethical. If you want to break apart the agreement, the taxpayers get their $190,000 back. That's starters. This is basically a sham. I wonder if Ms. Botel's getting a kickback on the $190,000. I don't know. I don't know. Is she getting it? The point, if he wants to come back, he gets back the money. That's the way it works when you break apart an agreement. Okay? You don't sit there and keep the money and get your job back and just come in here to do what Ms. Botel wants. That's not the way it's done. This new city manager, she's going to be that job for a long time because there'll be a lot of legal challenges to what's going on here today, especially now that I have this agreement in my hand.
Thank you.
Erica Davis, Mary Bram, John Miller.
See this cross here? Erica Davis, Riviera Beach. The devil is a liar. All I have to say to you guys is seal the deal so we can move on with the city. Seal the deal, because we're not going to allow any more devils to come in here and do anything as long as I'm breathing and Ms. Bram is breathing and everybody else out here. Seal the deal so we can move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Bram, John Miller, Bessie Brown.
Ms. Bram? Ms. Bram?
Good evening, Ms. Mary Bram,
Good evening.
Riviera Beach. A fair and decent contract for Mr. Evans. It should be no less. Your attorney is no offense toward her. Her contract was sealed with a 2-year guarantee contract. Mr. Evans was done an injustice that was stained upon this city for the irreparable leadership of the board. I sat here in dialogue with this council. Don't do that. Don't do that. And even if you did it, we was trying to give you an opportunity to correct yourselves. We would have been fair to you also, but they failed to do that. Mr. Evans did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong. He was fired unjustly. He's overqualified, and he's more than able to work with the attorney. Ms. Brown will work with every employee in here. You have my guarantee. As long as you come fair and do not backstab us. If Mr. Evans should come here, we want him to be treated decent and fairly. Nobody under Ms. Bram's orbit will be treated unjustly because she's lived through that. And I saw what this was done and how it was done. And we should never tread on those waters ever, ever, ever again. We are human beings, and we all live to pull each other up by their bootstraps. That project that Mr. Lozman was talking about, let me tell you, I remember that precisely. It was a $3,000 per senior house that never got up off the ground because Mr. Evans was fired. Not a penny of it was spent. Not a penny of it was spent because you fired Mr. Evans. We were doing the sea escape. We was trying to do that sea escape, for the seniors' homes and stuff. None of that got up off the ground because of the disruption that the board caused. Mr. Amon did not receive a penny, not one dime. Ms. Brown remembers that very well. I have it in my notes back here as well as here. And that is record. And Mr. Amon would like to speak in reference to that. See, there are a lot of times you throw out stuff and just throw it in your mouth. Frank Lozman, I'm going to say this. We welcome every human being to live in this city here. But it is according to how each individual would want to live. We welcome each and every one. But it's time out for this, Mr. Lozman. We will work with you if you work with us. Stop this behavior, Mr. Evans. It's time for you to be better, the city to be better, and the citizens to be better.
Thank you.
Don't fight us. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Miller, Bessie Brown, Horace Towns.
John Miller, 1290 Manor Drive, and I'm going to say my address because I live in Riviera Beach. I know that I could get up here and use my 3 minutes if I was from Kalamazoo, Wisconsin, or Bangor, Maine. But we need people when we stand up because I've been hearing it, and I'm not talking about Mr. Lozman. He is in Singer Island. He owns property. I'm not talking about him whatsoever. But we've had people getting up, throwing different things around at some of these meetings, and towards the end of the meeting, all they do is say their name, and they're not even from this city. Now tell me how much credence John Miller would have going to West Palm Beach and standing up and saying, John Miller, 1290 Manor Drive, Riviera Beach, and I live on Singer Island. We need to know who is standing up and what they're saying, because that way everybody out here that lives in this city would know that what is their agenda. Am I right? Does it make sense? Common sense. Common sense is that everybody knows what happened to Jonathan Evans. He was run out of here, and then his name was ruined. He was out of work for 7 months. Took him a while to get back. I don't know if his name was ever fully cleared, but I do know I was there the night of the agreement, and I remember them saying on that statement, what he had to write in there, that this can be changed. Now, I'm not sure if it was Mr. DeGraffin, right? You remember, Mrs. Bram? Because you took notes on that.
Mr. Miller, keep your comments this way.
Anyway, what I'm getting at, I don't think I was dreaming that. But here's the thing. We already decided that we want to bring him back. He does not need to reapply. What we're doing is correcting a wrong. And we're bringing back a person. And we want them to pick up where they left off starting in 2017. And like Humo says, let's get after it.
Thank you.
Bessie Brown, Horace Towns, Doretta Park.
Good evening, Bessie Brown. I just have questions that we're going to bring, you all want to bring Mr. Evans back, but I just would like to know what the process was in order to get to that point, because I know you had a meeting April 3rd or something, and that we were going to advertise. She was going to advertise and give the get the internal employees an opportunity to apply and all of this stuff and all and going on and on. But I'd like to know, did you actually advertise for a city manager's position? And that should be first and foremost. I know Ms. Botel actually had gotten some city managers, some people to for you all to critique and see what you'd like to have them as a city manager. But I'd like to know, was it actually put out and advertised for a city manager? And everybody here doesn't want Mr. Evans back. I just want you to, everybody, you all have the majority and all that, but everybody here doesn't want Mr. Evans to come back. And my thing is, if he comes back, there was a legal document where we paid him $190. That should be discussed too. So it's $190,000.
Please.
$190,000, and I have it, and I read it and everything. And so therefore, and I mean, if you're going to bring him back, you're going to do all of this stuff. Let's do it in the right manner. Do it in the right manner. If you're going to just waive one section, one letter H in the document, and then you just say, "Oh, we'll hire him back." You should actually take the time to see. But Mr. Miller said bring him back since from September. I hope it's not from September 2017. And we paid him for some services also. But basically, you all just need to do what is right, and in the same manner of policies and procedures in this manner, instead of having Ms. Botel go out and do things and don't handle it through the HR department, because the HR department is the one that should hire and do things that has been done, and you all need to do it in the right manner.
Thank you.
Horace Towns, Doretta Park.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good evening to the council. Again, I've had major surgery, so I apologize for my voice going in and out. First off, congrats to Deidre. I know where she isn't here, but I was on record. I was against the hiring of a temporary city manager, but by far that is the logical choice that we are transitioning towards the rehire of Mr. Jonathan Evans. So I applaud you guys on making that decision. Second, I want to say to this council, politics are about agendas and power. Just like the council that fired Mr. Evans had the legal right or the rights in that point to fire him, there was a lot of controversy that came with his firing. Just like this council, you guys got elected, you guys have now that power to rehire him. There will be controversy that follows. You're not going to make everybody in this city happy all the time. To be honest, most of the people in this city have some kind of agenda for themselves. I do want to say to this council, and I'll be the bad guy for a second, I really am going to give this council an opportunity. We will not always agree on that council, but the most important thing is for you guys to respect the disagreements and find a way to move forward. We do have a brilliant city attorney. You guys will not always agree with the interpretations. As an attorney, it is her job to give an interpretation, her legal interpretation. Another attorney might have a different interpretation. But the point is, she's making her interpretation. We don't have any attorneys on that council. And I don't expect us always to agree. I said all that to say, when you guys were elected, there was no one in this world didn't know we were going to bring back Jonathan Evans. And hallelujah, I really feel safe if you just find a way to make that happen because of the situations that we have in our city. Because in all of my years with my background, the council in the past, I would come up to this council and say some of the most simplest things, and it would look like a deer in headlights. We do have a council now with some qualified professionals, some diversity. So you have Douglas with the business aspect, you have McCoy with the stature, legislative aid background, you have Ms. Lanier, who's very brilliant, you have Ms. Anderson with her poise. My point to this council is, make it happen. There's going to be repercussions no matter what happens in this city, and I'm just looking for you guys to make the right choices. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last card is Ms. Doretta Park.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
And I want to commend Ms. Deirdre Jacobs of being our new interim city manager. And I want to thank Mrs. Hopkins for all her service that she has done for the city. But I also want to address Mr. Lozman's comments. Every time seems like when he comes to the podium, because we can agree to disagree, and we all have our opinions. But it's like it's falling all on Councilwoman Botel, doing this, that, and the other. Not just Councilwoman Botel wants Mr. Jonathan Evans to come back. It's the citizens of Riviera Beach. I think we made it loud and clear. What happened to him was a tragedy. That these 3 board members did, the secret meetings with the chief of police, we have not forgotten any of this turmoil, and it was indeed turmoil in this city. So, Mr. Lozman, as far as your comments, I think it's misdirected. I think you should think about what you're saying when you get up here, because Mr. Jonathan Evans was definitely railroaded. He deserved every dollar of his $190,000 for not being employed all of those months and having to take care of himself and his family. You don't treat people like this. You treat people as you would like people to treat you. And no one up there would like to be treated like Mr. Evans was treated and disgraced, attempt to be disgraced as Mr. Evans was trying, they attempted to disgrace Mr. Evans. And it's wrong. And yes, he should come back. And we all should applaud him coming back. I don't think it's maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people in the city that doesn't want to see Mr. Evans come back. Because I know all the citizens, at least senior citizens, want Mr. Evans back here. And the youth. And I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, another thing. While I have a couple of more seconds, I'm sorry. Concerning his contract, I think it should be just as a city attorney's contract, a contract of 2 years. And then if you decide to terminate him at will, because this is a will state, he still should be accommodated with a position in the city, just as her contract. And I don't take anything from the attorney. I think she's a very good attorney. But let's do the right thing.
Thank you.
Let's do the right thing.
Okay, so back to the council to provide any comments regarding the item, moving forward with contract negotiations for Jonathan Evans as city manager.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I wanted Ms. Attorney Nguyen to give her legal advice. She wasn't here at the last meeting, and we were looking in reference to the contract and the negotiations with moving forward. What options do we have to avoid any litigation against us as a city?
Litigation from?
From the individuals that were inside of the settlement.
You can't stop anybody ever from filing a lawsuit. I can't tell you what the risk is, how great it is, or how slight it is. There's a possibility that a lawsuit may be filed. I don't know what their damages are.
Have we made an attempt to reach out to them to sign hold harmless agreements?
We have not. You have not directed me to do so.
Okay. Madam Chair?
Yes.
That would be one of my recommendations, to protect the city at all costs.
And in the event they decide that they don't want to enter into any agreement, what would the next step be? Because we can't force them to enter into it.
The same direction as if we move forward without it.
Okay. So the attempt, if the council directs me to do so, and I would like a motion to that effect if that is your desire, because I want to be clear on what the direction is.
All right. Do you want to make a motion on that?
Discussion before we go with the motion.
Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilman Lawson, I kind of really don't even think that's necessary at this point. We've already been presented with the letter that suggests that they have some standing. A whole harmless agreement does absolutely nothing but waste time. If that's what they want to do, then we'll do it. But, one of the most fundamental things about where we're a legislative body, and just as it is in the federal government, there are separation of powers. So no judicial court can make us do anything that's not already set forth. Now, whether they have standing in this agreement, then, there's always a case that has been filed. They can file a motion to enforce, and then we'll just deal with it. But I don't want to be bound, or I don't even think it's necessary to even suggest a home harmless agreement, because that's an optional agreement to enter into with the supposed other parties. And as I was sitting here thinking about it, I can remember when I was actually on a member of the audience, one of those individuals suggested that they were going to be a part of mediation, that they insisted in order to preserve their right that they wanted to be at the mediation. If you remember last week at our special meeting, I asked Mr. Tercivius specifically regarding the mediation, were they at the mediation or were they represented by counsel at mediation? And as far as I'm concerned, this agreement exists with the city and with Mr. Evans. So if they feel they have standing, then, see you in court. But, you know, I mean, you know, we're at a point where we can't hold up business of the city by mere threats of litigation. And, you know, while I certainly respect a person's right to do so, you know, I mean, do we live in fear or do we run a campaign to represent the people, you know? So that's where I'm at. And you know, let me say this, and I say this respectfully, Councilmember Lawson. I just don't, it seems like we're just, you know, there's always going to be a suggestion or a possibility of something that may be, that may provide as a risk or exposure to the city. But I just don't, you know, I'm more of a risk taker. So, you know, if that's what it is, then, you know, we'll deal with it then. So those are my comments. But I just don't see the effectiveness of a whole harmless agreement when it has to be a meeting of the minds and a mutual agreement. So that's my response to you. So you can certainly opine further.
Madam Chair.
Go
I would like to respond.
Okay.
Well, in reference to us, our goal is to safeguard the city. We are the spokesperson and voice for our residents, and our residents have spoke that they would like to see Jonathan Evans come back. We have to explore every option to avoid any issues, concerns, or problems being addressed to the city. So we can agree to disagree when it comes to reaching out to the individuals about signing a hold harmless, if it's going to carry any weight or not. And I understand that we want to push forward and move forward with this, but we have to protect the city at all costs. So every option needs to be discussed and outlined.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'm not in favor of reaching out to the previous council members.
Okay. Anyone else?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
To the city attorney. And we know we may be facing some suits coming up. The question is this. In the next 30 to 60 days, could we bring Jonathan back?
Yes.
That's all that matters. Madam Chair, I think we have to, and it's like Councilman McCoy said, we ran a campaign, we're listening to the people. I don't think we need to waste a lot of time going down. We got a lot of stuff that we have to deal with in this city. If the city attorney said we can bring them back, let's go there. Listen, we're not going to be able to satisfy everybody. I say this, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. All right, common sense isn't common to everybody. He was fired unjustly. Let's do the right thing. Let's bring him back so we can move the city forward. That's what the people want. We can't waste any more time. I respect Councilman Lawson, but right now I don't think we're going to waste our time trying to make them sign anything that we already know that they're not going to sign. So let's not spend time there. Let's spend time moving the city forward.
And Mr. Lawson, I certainly appreciate and understand where you're coming from. I do. Having been up here for a while and having had many nights of being up here with the previous council, I do believe that would be a waste of our time. But I understand where you're coming from. I do. So I'm not in favor of doing that. As someone mentioned, one of them did send a letter on last week, and you know, if that's what they want to do, then that's fine.
And Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
as always, I'm here to just serve as the will of the board and the people. So it's just presenting the issues, concerns that are going to be represented by all options. So I'm not holding up progress. I'm just addressing the progress that we need to continue to take in the right steps.
Yes, I understand, and I appreciate it. All right. Yes?
Madam Chair, can I make a motion?
Did anyone else have any comments? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint the city attorney and the chair of the city council to move forward with contract negotiations for Jonathan Evans, the city manager.
Second.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So
I do want to state that Mr. Evans, as I said before, I've spoken with him numerous times in the past, several months. He could make himself available to meet with each person individually on Friday or Saturday so that everyone is comfortable with moving forward with negotiations and what the negotiations would look like. So he will be here on Friday. I think around 3. He'll be here through Friday evening until Saturday afternoon. So you can reach out to him and let him know what time works for you so that everybody's comfortable with moving forward with him and the negotiation of, what you would like to see in terms of the contract and what you would like for the city to, how you want the city to move forward. Because, I'm sure he wants to come back, but he wants to make sure that everybody is comfortable with it. He is going to be able to act on what it is the council want as a whole.
Okay, Madam Chair, I have some, in response to her motion, I just have some procedural questions from the attorney. And if I can, I'll start with this. So just by virtue of Councilmember Lanier's motion to enter into negotiation, are we to presume that this is also an offer as well?
Yes.
Okay, an employment offer.
Yes.
Okay, and during the removal of that clause, I believe it was letter H, did he communicate directly with the city attorney's office, or was that done through an attorney?
Regarding the clause?
Yes.
My understanding is that the city initially had a clause in there, similar to what you see now. However, Mr. Evans asked for that language to be changed because he didn't want it to look like the city was saying, we don't ever want you back. He wanted it to look like it was his decision. So that's why the language was changed, so that it was more proactive on his side.
Follow up. Well, I'm speaking of the amendment to the agreement. Was that done, I guess this was been within the last week or so, was that done through an attorney? Did he have an attorney representing him, or did he do it directly?
I'm not aware.
Ms. Hoskins,
Madam Chair, I sent the amendment directly to Mr. Evans.
Okay.
And he signed it and had it notarized.
The attorneys didn't do it.
Right.
It was her and Mr.
Okay,
Evans.
that's
Between
all I
the two
needed.
of them.
That's all I needed.
All right,
Madam
anyone
Chair,
else?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the times that he's available?
Friday, he will be in town Friday around 3 p.m. You all would need to give him a call and speak directly with him individually as to when you would meet with him, but he should be here Friday around 3 and until Saturday afternoon sometime.
Thank you.
Follow up?
Yes.
And
if you can't meet with him, obviously he'll be available by phone too.
Well, exactly what would I be asking? What's the purpose of us having to conversate with him? Are we setting forth expectations? Is this
just if you have not had a conversation with him at all in terms of what you would like to see in terms of a city manager or what you want to accomplish, or just if you have never spoken to him before, this would be your opportunity to speak to him. It sounds like everyone has spoken to him at some point. So it wouldn't be that you're just hiring somebody off the spot and don't know who you're hiring. This is if this is something you want to do. He just wanted to be available to everyone if you felt the need to have a conversation with them, just to say, hi, who are you? What are you about? If that's where you are with it.
Okay, well, I just didn't want, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be, I didn't know what we were doing by talking to him, so.
It was his suggestion. Because he didn't want it to appear that he's just coming in here and getting a job and just moving and nobody even knows him. Almost like the past council hired someone that we had never met before.
Okay.
So that's kind of what he didn't want, although I don't think it's the same thing because all of us have disclosed we've had a conversation with him.
I'm not, I just don't want to,
Yeah.
I just thought in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to meet with him because I don't know if that's where I want to go as far as negotiations.
Whatever your conversation is, whatever it is.
So when do we talk about, so who's the delegate to negotiate with him? Would that be you?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it would work the same as with the interim city manager contract, that it comes back to us and you all make the modifications or, whatever it is that you want to do with it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right, did we take a vote? Anyone else have comments? All right.
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier?
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Discussion. Discussion by city manager. Nothing. Oh. We'll go ahead into public comments first, and then we'll come back.
Fane Lozman, Sammy Brown, Doretta Paul.
Wow, I see 50 people back there, 50 out of a city of 34,000. So these 50 really dictate how the city goes. Thousands of people have expressed their thanks to me when I fought the eminent domain battle back when I first moved to the city to keep them in their homes so Viking wouldn't take it. And what it cost me, that lady in the back, it cost me a home. It cost me a few $100,000 on that case. I never got back my furniture in my house. Then I was falsely arrested, and I fought that out for 10 years. There's another $800,000 in legal fees. So you haven't paid a price. I paid a price fighting to keep people's homes. I have a whole silent majority of people around this city respect what I did for them. And I'm going to reach out to them, and we're going to make an excuse of somebody up there to explain what the rule of law is. We're going to start with Miss Botel, okay? We're going to recall Miss Botel from office, and it's going to be tied into the Jonathan Evans deal. That's right. We're going to go back to the people who I saved their homes via eminent domain, and we're going to talk about this sham agreement that was made, a sham agreement where he said he wouldn't come back. Give me 190 grand, I won't come back. Remember what he did. He sued the city. He sued the individual council persons. He sued them. They gave up their right to defend themselves with the idea that he would be a man of honor and not come back. If he wants to come back, we want our $190,000 back. You have a responsibility. This is basically a fraud. It's a fraud that the city says, okay, Evans, what do you want to do? You sued the city, said, I won't come back if you give me 190 grand. Okay, now you want to come back, give us back 190 grand. Otherwise, it's a scam. It's not going to fly. You guys are putting yourself in a very bad position. But let's make an example of Botel, and then the rest of you will realize, uh-oh, there are ethics. Uh-oh, we just can't rescind an agreement. You know, uh-oh, there's complications. Did you ask your city attorney what she thought about the $190,000? Did you ask your city attorney why did Torsivia represent the individual defendants? The individual defendants were defamed in the attacks that went on in that thing. They gave up their rights to defend themselves to settle this case. But nobody held a gun to his head. He said he wouldn't come back. If you want to come back and you lied on that agreement, Mr. Evans, then you give back the money. Okay, you don't get it both ways. This is going to blow up in this council's face with this. Number one. And number two, why in the world would you not open up the competition? If he's the best guy, fine. But to come and sneak him in because 50 people in the back here are screaming and yelling, this is going to be a major scandal. And if anybody knows me well enough, I have the ability to fight this out and the ability to fund it. If Evans wants to come back, he gives back the money, and it's a competitive process. Not this little sham that Botel is pushing through.
Thank you.
It all ties back to the Lagoon area.
Thank you,
Trust
Mr.
me,
Lozman.
I will fight this out.
Thank you.
Okay?
Sammy Brown.
I will fight this out, Mayor.
Doretta Paul, Horace Towns.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
I just want to say, I have a 10-year-old.
State your name, I'm sorry.
Sammy Brown. I just wanted to say, I have a 10-year-old little brother, and I know firsthand that only kids throw tantrums when they get upset, and they make random and false remarks that aren't true. And I just wanted to address, I heard him coming up explaining, Dr. Botel has her hand in all of this, she's working. But if I'm hearing the people in the back, we all want Jonathan Evans back for the most part. Exactly. And, I heard he made a remark last meeting calling her racist too. someone who's racist is someone who makes, snarl remarks, and, who doesn't like a specific ethnic group. Not someone who's fighting for jobs in all areas of Riviera Beach, and who's going out of her day, and who's going out every day, waking up at 7 and 6 o'clock in the morning, getting up and being proactive in her city with all of his citizens. Now, this isn't going to be politically correct, but for a little white woman to just get up in the morning and feel free to just go on J Avenue or be able to actually communicate with our citizens, just going what everybody calls the hood, and just socialize with people. That says a lot to me. And the people, for the majority, the people want Jonathan Evans back. And like I said last time, majority rules. Oh gosh, I had a few things else. And also, Dr. Botel is a councilwoman. She's not our city attorney, she's not our HR director, and she's not our building official. This lady has went out of her way doing other people's jobs and performing duties other people should have done that they should have did. And you can't fault her for that. She's doing things other people should have done. And that's just that. And that's all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Loretta Paulk, Horace Towns, Mary Graham.
I only wanted to thank him for not saying little old white lady.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Doretta Park, and I was going to really comment on Mr. Lozman's statements, but I don't want to waste my time with that. So I want to discuss a possibility of you all considering Mr. Jarvis Jackson to be the chief legal aid, because as I was talking prior, that to save the city money, that you only possibly need one chief legislative aid assistant, and if he or she needs another, maybe we hire another, but this is to try to save money in the city of Riviera Beach. And I would like you all to consider that. And I would also want to know, where do we stand with the 67 credit cards? How is that situation being handled? Another thing that I wanted to, is kind of off the beat a little bit, but it really concerned me, the situation with a young man who was being arrested and was pulled down from, I guess, an audio or some kind of, thank you. And the police allowed him to be attacked by a police canine. And also the interim chief stated that this was against the policies of Riviera Beach. And where are we standing with this? And I don't know, what was the discipline for this officer? And also, were there other officers there when this event was happening to this young man? Because from what I'm reading and hearing, he had no weapon. So when they pulled him down, the officers could have just arrested him. So why would they turn the dogs on this young man like that? And how often has this been happening in our city that we don't know about? And I always, when I see the officers, I always commend them. Thank you for your service. And thank you for the protection. And thank you for putting your lives on the line. But this is not right. This is not right. And I think the interim chief needs to speak on that. I don't know if he's here tonight, but maybe at another time he can speak on this, because this is not how we serve and protect the citizens. By placing a canine dog after you have gotten the whatever he did, or guess he did something illegal, but when he's down on the ground and have the dog, canine officer dog, attack him and maul him the way he was. Because this, indeed, probably going to be a lawsuit, unfortunately. Speaking of lawsuits, And I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Horace Towns, Mary Bram, J.B. Dixon.
Good
evening
evening.
again.
Good evening.
Try to get all this out tonight because I don't like attending all these meetings, but thank you. My background and expertise is stormwater, MS4, MPDS. You know, I've served as a manager in many positions. I campaigned on the fact that I didn't agree that the council should be the council and the CRA and the utility board. And one of those reasons was because the utility board, wasn't a part of the city. It's utilities. The utility district is something separate. I would like for us to return the district to the residents and find a way to get a new water plant. I'm sorry for my voice going in and out, but I want to highlight what is going on Wednesday, I believe. You guys have a utility board district meeting, correct?
Tonight.
Oh, well, thank God. You have an item on there called Item 5. Item 5 insults everybody on this board. It insults the intelligence of every person on this board and every resident in this city. If you guys agree to that, it would be one of the most incompetent decisions ever made by this city. The utility board giving away, in essence, to be clear, you have someone asking for total, complete power, where it takes the power away from our current city manager and creates a new city manager in the utility district. It will create more costs, more positions, and you'll have someone operating that you can't tell them anything to do. And I really want to know how that item even came about for discussion, and because it's just absurd. With Jonathan Evans coming back, I question the timing of it, and I even question how that even came into conversation. You have a city manager, you need a new water plant, you have a utility district, you need a water plant, you already have rates that people don't agree with, and then the fact that now you're going to look at making a decision that's going to cost the residents even more. So I wanted to bring that to the council's attention. I will be sending an email that gives some more clarification, but I thought it was absurd. If I was the current city manager and I was returning and I seen that item coming up for discussion, that would make me look at the utility district just a little more. There's a lot going on there, I would assume. But I'm looking at this council to make some intelligent decisions, and actually, if even you have to talk about it at a retreat, you guys need to discuss that before you make any decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further public comment cards at this time. Mary Bram, J.B. Dixon, Aman Israel.
She was saying that we've closed it. We're not accepting any more public comment cards.
Mr. Mary Brown, Riviera Beach, congratulations, Tiger Woods. It's not where you've been. It's not where you've been, but where you're going. Congratulations to you. Good job. Congratulations to Miss Wanda Moore, Gatehouse Media, that award last week. Congratulations to you for your professionalism and your journalism. And Rick Christie, too, for winning the best award for the writer for the editorial board. See, Ms. Brams keeps up with all of these people. I would like to say Mr. Jonathan Evans' contract, I'm tired of hearing about that man now. I'm tired of it now. His contract consisted of, I'm going to say it one more time, you could not pay that man enough. His contract was that settlement was $190,000. $38,000 went to both of those attorneys. We could have avoided that if we could have had the meeting of the minds. $76,000 went to the attorneys alone. Mr. Evans only received $114,000. And that did not even occur at his base salary. See, I would have took you to the mill. I would have taken you to the mill for doing me like you did me. But Mr. Evans was a just man. He did not do that toward this city. Dr. Botel, I'm so tired of talking about you. The mainland voted the previous council out. The mainland voted them out, not Dr. Botel. So if you want to be hostile and hold some attitudes, hold it against us for holding you accountable. We are tired of that. And you talking about a recall, Ms. Brown will get 8,000 peoples. Okay now. Ms. Brown will get 8,000 peoples. Vane Lozman, I do respect you as a person, but we've been working a long time. Mr. Vane Lozman only has an agenda entirely for himself. He will use whoever he has to get what he wants, because he loves to fight, and so does Ms. Brown. And this is how Mr. Lozman works, and this is how Ms. Brown works. Fang, I'm encouraging you to stop this here. You want the project over there on Singer Island, that lagoon. That's all you're interested in. Lady March and all of you all are coasting this man along. Stop it. Stop it. We say enough is enough. Please stop it. And the educational part too, also in the paper too, I totally agree with this too. The black history lagging in Palm Beach County schools. I think I spoke about this in installment of you as a board. I want you to work collective with that school board, because our schools are in disarray. And I thank you all. Move forward. It is so many lawsuits in this city here. The attorney can attest to it. Let us collect all of our monies from them. And also let us collect our monies from the previous council that sued us, Pardo, as well as our previous attorney. See, if we're going to be right and do right, let's get everybody right. Attorney, Wynn, you fight us to the utmost.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
J.B. Dixon, Amon Israel, Stephen Powell.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Excuse
Council.
me. J.B. Dixon.
She passed.
Who was it?
She passed.
She passed? Okay.
Go ahead. Good evening, Council, Chair, Mayor. It is very imperative that you as a council who we elected keep the community informed. There are people that plays on the intelligence and the emotions of our community for the lack of knowledge. For the lack of knowledge. We elected you as a board, but you have to keep your community informed. Again, they pay on the emotions and the intelligence of our community by them not knowing the facts. I'm not sure of the exact number, but Jonathan Evans tried to agree with the city to settle for just his severance pay. If anybody owe anybody any money, it's the past city council when he tried to agree not to take the city to court. That's what he tried to do. Now, I'm really not worried about me and what Fane Lozman said about me. I'm always going to be righteous and stand on ethics. Yes. And I'm going to tell you this. It's people like that that's going to continue to separate our city or attempt to separate our city, scare our city, bring a divide. When they start calling Ms. Botel a racist, that's to alert the West Side to make them feel different for her. Ms. Botel, if you know her, she's not a racist. Only way I can say this, she might be more black than a whole lot of other people that consider themselves black, if you just want to deal with a color. But again, council, you want to keep people in the community aware. There are moves being made now to destroy what the community has put in place today, and that's you. That's Deirdre Jacobs as the interim city manager, and the return of Jonathan Evans. Do not think that they are through. I also want to bring up the issue with the dog biting the gentleman. Please do not let a few decisions cloud our Riviera Beach Police Department. We have a lot of fine, outstanding officers who are doing some great jobs. Now, what I seen on the camera did not look right at all. But I requested the information. I should get it tomorrow. But this is brewing in the community. It reminds me of things that I seen back in the King days when I seen that. But nobody has to be the right to be the judge and the jury and turn a dog loose. That's just totally inhuman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last caller is Stephen Powell.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Stephen Powell, 1011 West 2nd Street. Left here in 79. I have been gone 40 years. And I'm excited about being home. And from what I've seen in the city, we must take possession. This is my city. And all that believe in prayer, keep praying. Military, retired law enforcement, 33 years government service. Proud to be in Riviera Beach. I've been keeping up with my city on YouTube and all that good stuff. But you, as the power structure of our city, take off running, don't slow down. I'm watching the people that are coming up here spewing poison and accusations and what they seem to believe themselves to be true. But after they say what they say, they leave. In the military, we call those cowards. In law enforcement, we call them cowards. In the ministry, we call them cowards. I've been preaching since 1985. And I'm here, not as a prophet, but as a man that loves his city and sees this city as a diamond, period. An example not only for the cities in Florida, but an example for the cities of our nation. Yes. And we are to think big and to remain strong. And you are our leaders. Run. Man. Don't walk. Don't let the walls stop you. You're going to always have the negatives. Always. But you have to look beyond that. You've been elected for a purpose. Fulfill that purpose. And don't look back. Being a leader means you have to make hard decisions. You're going to have to make some hard decisions. But as long as those decisions are wrapped up in totally understanding and embracing that you serve and work for the people, we're going to be all right. We're going to be better than all right. So as the negatives come, don't embrace them. Don't hold on to them. But run with the positive. One man can change the world.
Thank you.
A group of men and women like yourself can change a nation.
Thank you. That's it. Okay. Okay, discussion by city manager. Well, I'm sorry. Do you have any answers to any of the questions that were posed in the public comment?
Madam Chair, resident Doretta Polk asked about the, I believe she was referring to the chief of staff. That position does exist in the current budget. However, either, and it serves
I think
the
she was,
mayors?
not the mayors,
No.
but no, I think she was talking about one person for the legislative aid.
Oh, okay, okay. So she
Having
was
one
suggesting one person for
yeah.
the entire board?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And she also mentioned the P cards. We're still at, we're a little bit less than 67, maybe right at 63 credit cards. Those credit cards are still being evaluated. And as it relates to the dog incident, I will have Chief Madden here if you would like to address that incident on Wednesday.
Okay. He's not here tonight.
Right. And I think that's all I have. As it relates to the school board, Resident Bram talked about working with the school board, and we were planning a meeting with the District 7 representative with the school board that we need to schedule to talk about having a workshop with the District 7 school board member. And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
And the question Mr. Horace Towns had regarding item number 5 for the utility district, the timing of the item, or how did it come, he said?
The timing of the item, I believe it had been discussed earlier, and that item was placed on the agenda based on conversations with the executive director of the district. So if you need further clarification, we can talk about it at the utility district meeting, but there was nothing to, the item wasn't placed on the agenda to slant Mr. Evans or to make any haste decisions. If it's the board's direction to delete the item or delay the item, we can until the city manager returns. So it would be entirely up to the board.
Okay. Okay, discussion by city manager. Did you have anything?
No, ma'am, I don't have anything.
Okay. Discussion by city attorney?
I do have the update on the K-9 incident, if you would like that now,
Okay.
unless you'd rather wait for Chief Madden.
I mean, if you...
The outcome.
Yeah, go ahead.
The officer received 84-hour suspension, and he had to complete a 40-hour course on handling of the K-9. He has not been put back into the unit yet because he has not completed that course. He has to complete the course and then get a recommendation from the captain as well.
And when did this event occur? When did this incident happen?
I don't have the actual date. Do you?
I think it was October. October of 2018. 18.
Did we? I think I saw it on the news before I even got anything from email. Was it handled back in October, or was it just handled recently?
It wasn't very recent. The the discipline, I want to say the recommendation came maybe a month or two ago.
But he's been working the whole time since October with that
Other than
incident?
the 84 hours of suspension, he's working, but not in the K-9 unit.
Okay, so we'll put that on for Wednesday to have a conversation or an update for Madden. on
Okay.
that. Okay.
Well,
Unless anyone else has something. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, can we just individually take that offline with city administration, because we don't deal with personnel issues, and I know there's a large concern about it, but there's nothing we can do as a legislative body, because I think a penalty or a reprimand has already been handed down. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the press release was probably sent out. I think perhaps anything further best be handled, directly with administration, because, who knows what's going to happen next. I mean, there's already been suggestions of potential lawsuits or litigation. I don't know what purpose would it serve other than what's already been provided to the public, but there is no avenue for city administration or even this body to even do anything additional to that officer. Am I right?
You're correct.
Because that'll be, you know, not only double jeopardy, but that's us kind of usurping the authority that's already set for.
And I agree with you, but I do believe that the public has a concern about it, and they need to be assured that
Definitely.
that is not a practice that we, you know, are okay with. And I do think Mr. Madden should come and just assure the public that that is not a practice that we, you know, condone. You know,
Yes,
so if nothing, he needs to come and assure the public that that will not. That they're safe and they don't have to worry about things like that, and that something was done. So that would be, you know, the reason for me asking for that to take place on Wednesday. Anyone else? All right. Anything else, City Attorney?
No, thank you.
City Council committee reports, and we don't have that yet, but on Wednesday's agenda we'll talk about the different assignments for committees for us. Statements by the mayor and city council. I'm going to start on the left this time because Mr. Mayor is.
She always gets the last.
I know. I'm going to go on this side first.
I think tonight is a good night. A couple of things I want to say is the community, the citizens have spoken. I think Ms. Bram said it right. As a person comes at one person on this dais, it's not one person that started this movement. A community started this movement. A community came out and said, we're tired, we're frustrated, and we want change. I saw you guys come out. I saw you guys with papers taking around the city, getting people to sign it. It was bigger than one person. And the community came out. As I hear, we had one of the biggest elections throughout the county. So you guys spoke. But let me tell you, you have to keep speaking. You have to keep coming. You have to keep holding us accountable. You have to keep letting us be transparent, because when you don't, we become like the last. We don't want to be that to move forward. We have brand new ideas. We have vision. We have plans. But we're going to need you guys. And it starts with you guys. And I'm so proud of this board to unanimously come together and say all five of us, because that shows unity. But I also want to tell you, it's going to be times where we don't always agree. And we're still going to need you to back us. And so I don't want you to have a board that we're all yes people, because we're all individuals. We all see things different. I want you to respect us, though. And I believe this, we should respect you guys, and you guys should respect us as you come to that podium. And so I know sometimes it's rough because we can't speak back. We have to hold our face, and we have to hold our anger or hold our feelings. But let's learn to respect one another in this city. People are watching. The world is watching us, and we have an opportunity to move forward, to be an example. This small 8-mile radius city can be an example for the world. We have an opportunity, and I'm proud to be your mayor. A lot of work, but I'm ready to work it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Botel.
Thank you. I want to thank Mary Beth Kofer for providing us with invitations to the Stony Brook Easter Party, which begins at 11 a.m. and runs till 3 p.m. on Friday, April 19th. And anybody who is interested in volunteering can contact Mary Beth. I think I gave her number the last time. It's 563 2050, and I thank her so much for the work she's put into this party. I know it's just a small thing to do for the kids, but the Easter Bunny's going to be there, so if you want to come. I want to remind people that I have my April 18th quarterly Singer Island Town Hall meeting. It is focused on garbage, but you can raise any topic you like. We have a speaker from the Solid Waste Authority, and we have a speaker from Waste Management. But yeah, as you know, if you've come to those meetings before, we discuss anything that the community wants to discuss. So that will be that evening. A quick note about the Palm Beach North Chamber. This is something that I will be asking council to help me with. I serve on the Government Affairs Committee of the Palm Beach North Chamber, as well as the Economic Development Committee, and as part of the Economic Development Committee, I serve on the Committee for the Environment. And one of the things that we are pushing strongly is abandoning the use of plastic straws, plastic bags, and balloons. And I would love to see Riviera Beach be the lead in this county for the government that has done away with single-use plastic bottles, plastic straws. I think we could all benefit from a little bit of glass containers up here. And I know that Mr. Horton will agree that Riviera Beach water is just fine to drink. And so we can begin to do that and do away with these. We spend a lot of money every year on these plastic bottles, and I'd love to see us eliminate that cost. I think that's it. Thank you.
Councilman McCoy.
I have nothing. I just want to respond to Councilwoman Botel. In my neighborhood, we use these more than one time. So. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Lanier.
No, I don't. I'll pass.
Okay. Councilman Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to just congratulate all the residents for just remaining engaged, staying consistent, and really just pushing the will of the city and continuing to push the will of the city. We accomplished what was set out months ago, and we're moving forward with the progress. Our goal as your council members is just to be a spokesperson, to also keep our city safe and in the right direction. So as our mayor said, we're not always going to agree, but we're always going to have the will of the city in the right direction. So that's always going to be our push. I want to bring to the board, our council members, we have some board representation that we have to do, and I want to just make sure everyone's ready for nominations for Wednesday's meeting with boards that they'd like to sit on. I have a few. Councilman McCoy has already represented a few that he'd like to sit on as well. So we'll send those out to, I believe, the city manager and have that discussion on Wednesday so that we can be prepared as a board. Riviera Beach needs to be represented throughout the state, throughout the county, and we need to continue to just be engaged in these different boards so that they can see that our representation is strong and that we have a new council in place to really take charge and be leaders of this community. Residents, thank you. Your voice was heard tonight, and we're going to move forward. I look forward to speaking with Jonathan this forward week, and also members as well, colleagues. I did an agenda review today. I think as a board that would be very beneficial for all of us to consider doing the agenda reviews prior to these meetings, because we can actually have our meetings run more effectively and efficiently moving forward. So if they can take the time, I spoke with our city attorney and city manager about possibly doing a joint agenda review, but their recommendation was to possibly do them individually. So we can have that discussion as well moving forward to see what's going to be the best process for the council.
Okay. And I just want to remind the Citizen Leadership Academy participants for this year who just passed by, finished up in March. We will have the presentation graduation on this Wednesday at 6 p.m. So please wear your shirts. I see one of our former classmates out there from last year. Thank you, too. She just doesn't have a shirt on. 3. Okay, it's more than that out. There's like 6 of you out there. Have some repeaters as well. Thank you to all of you. So hopefully we'll have that going again this year towards the end of the year, but we will have graduation this Wednesday during presentation time. I just want to say again, congratulations to Ms. Deidre Jacobs for stepping into the position of interim city manager. I look forward to her speaking and working hand in hand with Mr. Evans so that we have a seamless transition during this point in time. Also, I would like to thank the council again for basically uniting as one in order to get Mr. Evans back. I've been here for a while, and I've always known that was what the people wanted. I just wasn't always in a position to be in the majority, as I mentioned before, in order for that to happen. So I do appreciate, and I'm glad to be a part of the group to have made it happen. Also, just want to reiterate, and as Ms. Hoskins mentioned, that there are a number of vacancies for the committee, so if everyone could just take a look and get in mind what you want, and on Wednesday when we talk, you'll it's on the backup, so you should be able to see, because most of the people who were in those positions are gone, so all of them should be pretty much vacant. And sometimes, if there are some that we were on, we like to switch up. So we'll have that discussion Wednesday, but if you could take a look at what they are and what are some of the events that you will be attending. And I also just wanted to say, and I had mentioned it, I don't think publicly, over the last couple of months, we've had a lot of situations going on in my family. As you all know, I did announce that my father-in-law passed at the end of February, and then maybe like a week and a half later, my husband's aunt passed. We went up to her funeral in Augusta, and 3 days after we got back, my husband had a stroke. And so I appreciate all of the texts, phone calls, all of the meals, everything. The community has been very, very helpful, all of the neighborhood associations. We really appreciate it. He is still out, and he's attending therapy and going to doctors, and I've been out on leave as well with my job because he's requiring, assistance in the house. So I appreciate all of your prayers and your assistance, and he is getting better, because if you know him, you know he's not one to sit in the house. He is driving him crazy to not be able to get out and drive and go to meetings and go to work and do all the things that he loves to do. He is not a house person. And so he's had to adjust to being that temporarily. So I thank all of you just for, just keeping us in your prayer. And with that being said, we do have a utility district meeting that is going to start in about 5 minutes. We'll take like a 5-minute recess, and then we'll start up with our utility district meeting. We stand adjourned.